So guys, I'm heading to a job that I did in 2012. The customer said it is not cooling, so I'm gonna see what's going on. Hopefully it's the drain. I hope it's a drain. But we're gonna see. Come on, drain switch. This is our Goodman unit. I've diagnosed the control board on the inside of this communicating unit. It's been used in a non-communicating facet, but the board is bad. It would not do a proper defrost, so I'm gonna go ahead and change it out. And then I'll get into if there's another problem or maybe the board was the problem causing this issue as well. Here's our control board. We're going to take some of the wiring off of this. I'll bend it out, put the other board behind it. We can remove the rest of the wiring and put it back on the other board one by one. There's a couple sensors that are going to be replaced along with this board. One coil temperature sensor and I think an ambient sensor. And we'll do that as well. Have my new board installed. The old one sitting out like this. We'll take the wires off of it one by one. Wire the high voltage back to it. I'll replace the two coil sensors as I do the process. So once you see it again, I have all the wires back onto it. We can restart the system and see what's going on while there is no cooling, or perhaps the board was contributing to that. So here is our outdoor ambient sensor. Just penetrates right down here through this little hole, plugs in up here. So we're going to replace that, and then we can replace our coil sensor. Meanwhile, after the suction pressure fell like a rock. It's not the board, Super Tech! We had quite a bit of vibration on this blower when I came in here. So I turned the system off. I'm going to wait a couple minutes for the capacitors to discharge in the module. And I'm going to take the blower out and give it a spin and see what happens. Guys, I'm back here at the job to change the blower out. I've taken the blower housing and blower out. We confirmed yesterday that between our red and blue wires there in the center of the screen, we had the proper DC voltage communicating with the motor. We had high voltage present at the motor. Just the motor wasn't behaving. So we're going to replace it, get it set back in there and start it back up and make sure we're squared away. Here's our motor. We have a motor down inside there. Then on the end here is our module. Basically call it the computer brain telling the motor what to do. We have a couple sets of plugs here, one high voltage. One of them is at communication voltage to DC. We're going to rip it out, replace it with our new motor, which is where? There it is. We sand the shaft a little bit on the motor, it's a little bit rusty. Get some of the rust off of it. I'll loosen up the nut, see if it plops right off. If it does, hey, super. If it doesn't, we'll get some aero coil, let it sit there for a second, and then it should plop right off. Here's our ECM motor all separated. Took the lock nut out. Sprayed a little aero coil in it. Let it sit for a minute, and then once I picked it up, a couple little nudges, it fell right out the bottom. So, aero coil wins again. Guys, when I came to check this motor out, one of the symptoms was it was sort of putting out a vibration. And whenever I would have the old motor, this is the new motor right here. When the old motor was in, I spin the wheel, you could feel it shake a little bit. Like the shaft wasn't staying centered. Almost like it was a really old motor with a bad bearing. But when I turn this one now, we don't have that same feeling, which is good, which encourages me that we made the right decision. Our blower motor is back in place. Our pins are plugged back into the module. We have our ground reattached. I reattached the freeze stat here. The old ICM, I think it's a 308. Yep. The ICM's plugged back in and has a coil sensor down there. So if the coil gets iced up, it'll shut things down. Now it only shuts things down for a moment, but the delay on the equipment will make sure that it's offline at least for 3 minutes. So there we go. I'm gonna turn it back on and see what happens. Our blower is back functional. I'm gonna put the door back on and let the system run for a few minutes.